misunderstood somewhat, mainly the value of practicing. A lot of people think practicing is boring, and they think it's like perhaps a means to an end, or perhaps a necessary activity, for basic rudimentary accomplishment. But it's my sense that working on technique is actually a very creative process, and I hope to sort of show some aspects of how creative work can be done through practicing. I think that the creative process is largely a technical process. People often misunderstand it as they think it's some sort of divine inspiration takes place, but it's about 1% divine inspiration, about 99% hard work, and a lot of creative work in terms of writing and composing is done through the editing process. In the case of developing a technique, it's a much longer process, much less linear. Editing is really irrelevant because you're developing it and redeveloping it all the time. I also think that developing technique in itself is a creative act. And people sort of misunderstand how that works. I think that ideas that you might have might lead to new techniques, but I think that also new techniques lead to new ideas. And a lot of music has been written based on how, somebody learns how to play something. Until for instance, Jaco Pastorius started playing his electric bass the way that he did, nobody was composing music like that. They didn't quite imagine this sort of singing, fretless electric bass. But after that, there was a whole lot more music written that way, and purely from a, came from a technical standpoint. I'm sure you spent a lot of time practicing that. I think developing technique is a very clear path towards becoming more creative. Music is, of course, very, very old. All cultures have it. There's not a ceremony or you have songs for birthdays, you have songs for weddings, you have songs for all celebrations. It's important for all religious ceremonies. There's not a culture on the planet that doesn't have music. We have innate musical ability, just the way we have innate ability to speak. They're not that different. They're different parts of the brain, but essentially the very human, very innate sort of idea. A while ago, 1995, they found a flute in a cave made from a bear bone. And they carbonated it for 45,000 years ago. It was an actual flute. They took a cast of the flute and recreated the instrument, and it played an actual scale. You could play music on this thing. So it's probably true that some caveman, some Neanderthal, was practicing his flute. He was playing long tones, playing scales, because he wanted to be able to tell his story on his flute a little bit better. So, it's a very, very long story. It's been around a long time. I have some examples of sort of primitive instruments here. This is a jaw harp. It's actually sort of a combination percussion and reed instrument. If you get the reed here, the metal tongue vibrating and blow air across it, you hear the air vibrating. It's a very simple thing. Only plays one note, but there's a lot you can do with it. People will make musical instruments out of anything. this is an instrument, it's a modern version of it, but you can sort of see how it was created. Originally, what they did was they took a piece of bamboo and they sliced off part of the end of it and thinned out that part. They didn't slice it all the way off, they separated it for a little bit to make it so that there was this airspace in between. And then they sanded it down, they scraped it down until it was able to vibrate. Now this one has a ligature and a reed on it, but it's essentially the same thing. They found these all over northern Africa, all over any place where reeds grew, where you had a pipe. So this was probably one of the very earliest wind instrument concepts. And it was probably discovered by accident when somebody was playing around with a reed and they blew on it and made a sound. But human ingenuity and human, technical leanings have led to all sorts of things of this sort. You have inventions that lead to musical techniques, that lead to creative, musical performances. And here's another one. This is just another piece of bamboo. Somebody burns holes at the top here and a hole at the end. It's just a flute, but it's another very simple instrument. It doesn't require a reed, but it does sort of the same kind of thing. And it's, you can see how somebody found a branch or a piece of bamboo like this, and drilled a few holes in it and came up with a scale. This job of learning how to blow into something and learning how to move your fingers on it has been going on for quite a long time. Many of my ideas as an improviser have come from techniques that I acquired in the practice room or, practicing someplace. And I have a lot of different, things I could show you that are purely the outgrowth of a practice session. I'm going to play a few things, pieces of music that I've written that are largely derived from experiences of stumbling across technical possibilities and then exploring them, and they eventually turn into a piece of music. I'll demonstrate a few things. This is an example of some multiphonics. You know multiphonics? Well, let me play a little recording. This is a neighbor of mine who became a teacher. His name's Bert Wilson. There we go. This is a guy that lived down the street from me. And he lived on a second floor apartment. He had polio when he was young, and so he was confined to a wheelchair. And I stood outside of his building for a couple of weeks listening to the music that was coming out of it. He was a saxophone player, and he had rhythm sections that would come play with him sometimes. And finally, one of the guys saw me out in the street waiting around, looking up at the window and said, "Why don't you come inside?" And I came upstairs and met the guy. And unfortunately, there were no stairs on his building, so getting in and out of his place in a wheelchair was impossible. He needed help. So we became friends, and I used to take him downstairs from time to time and help him get outside, and I'd run errands for him a little bit. And I think I paid for a lesson once, but after that we just were friends and spent a lot of time just listening to records and playing together. And he let me sit in with the groups that came over and played. Here's a little bit of Bert Wilson. fanatic with multiphonics and showed me a bunch of things, but I also had already stumbled on a lot of them by accident. It turns out on the saxophone, if you press down the wrong key and blow the right way, other sounds come out. Like if you play a G sharp like this, and then you open the D key. And there's dozens of those. Actually quite useful. So I'll play you a piece that incorporates some multiphonics as well as some other things which I'll talk about after the